Welcome to day 36 of the Gospel of John Book Club. And in today's reading, he don't always come when you call, but he's always on time. No?
It's good. No,
Okay.
it's good.
I'll take that.
It's good. Okay.
All right.
So we're reading John chapter 11, verse 38 to
44.
44. Jesus was still angry as he arrived at the tomb, a cave with a stone rolled across its entrance. "Roll the stone aside," Jesus told them. But Martha, the dead man's sister, protested. "Lord, he has been dead for 4 days. The smell will be terrible." Jesus responded, "Didn't I tell you that you would see God's glory if you believe?" So they rolled the stone aside. Then Jesus looked up to heaven and said, "Father, thank you for hearing me. You always hear me, but I said it out loud for the sake of all these people standing here, so they will believe you sent me." Then Jesus shouted, "Lazarus, come out!" And the dead man came out, his hands and feet bound in grave clothes, his face wrapped in a headcloth. Jesus told them, "Unwrap him and let him go."
Yeah, that's good stuff. That's good stuff.
I love the story.
I think for one of the first times I really paid attention to verse 42, I never
Yes.
really locked into that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think we just kind of get caught up in Jesus or in Lazarus coming alive,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, oh man, like, oh yeah, and you're ready to cheer, like, the climax of the movie.
Yeah.
But in verse 42, I think it's probably one of the more powerful lines that I can remember in recent times since we've been started this book club. And I don't know if everybody's resonating with it in the same way or if it's resonating with you in the same way, but it's verse 42. Is he says, when he gets ready to pray, he says, "Father, thank you for hearing me. You always hear me, but I said it out loud for the sake of these people standing here, so they will believe that you sent me."
That's so comforting to know that
Yeah.
God always hears us.
Yeah.
Right? Even when we think that he doesn't, I think Jesus gives comfort right now to say, "You always hear me."
Yeah.
And that's just so beautiful. And you're right, it stood out to me for the first time too. And I think just as we're doing the 60 Days of Summer book club, I'm starting to pay more attention to the little nuances of what Jesus is saying, what he's doing, how he's moving. And I love that John is so detailed in his writing to make note of those things because they're so important. They're very important, especially for us as believers now who have Jesus, who already know the ending of the story, how it's going to end, but how comforting it can be for us in times when we are waiting for God to do something that can seem sometimes impossible.
Yeah.
Sometimes the situation can just seem so impossible. Like Martha's like, "What are you doing? It's over.
Yeah.
He's dead for 4 days."
Yeah. like you should have gotten here like 4 days ago, and then we could have been doing something different. But like, what do you think you're doing now?
You know, it's like, it's too late. Help us to move forward in a new direction. Jesus is like, no, it's not too late. He's, he's just coming in. Sometimes it can seem like, Jesus is coming in or God is coming in. It's too late for anything to happen, but God always has perfect timing.
Yeah.
And so I love that Jesus waited. It seemed he waited until Lazarus died. He waited for this moment so that God may be glorified, so they can truly and fully understand who he really is.
Yeah. And I love this. Now this is I think, this is not the first time that we see Jesus doing something so that God could be glorified.
Absolutely.
Same thing with the blind man, He was like, okay, no, he's not blind, because of any sin issue of him or his parents or anything.
Yeah.
He's blind because we want, so that Jesus could, so that essentially Jesus, God, could be glorified.
And I think that seems to be the pattern of John the writer here. To prove Jesus is doing these things constantly to prove
that he's God.
His authority, that he is God.
Yeah, his deity. Yeah, I love it. And the other thing, well, I want to encourage everybody because I know some of you may be facing situations in life. Life is good at bringing these situations up where, it's against the clock, time is running out, and then time runs out. And I think sometimes we look at the clock and time is running out or time runs out and we give up.
That's true.
And we give up. And I think this is going to be encouraging for somebody. Don't give up just because the time ran out.
That's so true, yes.
Don't give up just because the time ran out. I'm going to say it one more time because I think somebody maybe on the clock, maybe, there's a bill that needed to be paid or something. Don't give up just because the time ran out. Continue to press and to pursue God until things change and shift in a direction that you can't come back from. Trust that Jesus can resolve a situation even beyond the clock.
Yeah, it's not over until he says so.
It's good stuff. Good stuff. Well, I think we have a interesting story.
It does, because I was about to ask you, does Jesus still do miracles? I was going to ask you that.
Absolutely, Jesus still does miracles. And listen, we have debates about this with folks, but I think it's pretty clear. And I think we see Jesus doing things that are unbelievable here. And I think in our lives, maybe the scope of the miracles, we haven't gotten a chance to see people come from the dead, but we've seen people be healed. Mm-hmm. We had a situation where it was the birth of our first child together.
Oh, yeah.
He's a 9-year-old now. We've been married for 11 years.
Oh, yes.
And we were in that delivery room for hours and hours. Charity's birth plan was not to have a C-section, and she wanted to go and also not have epidural. That child, she had epidural. The next one, she didn't. She's a champion. But she had the epidural. She was all drugged up. She had dilated to 8 centimeters. Anybody who's seen the delivery of a baby knows that you have to get to 10 centimeters. And the doctors were telling us, usually when a woman gets to 8 centimeters, those last 2 centimeters it just kind of happens really quickly. And she rested at 8 centimeters for several hours. And they were like, we're going to go ahead and do a C-section because no matter for how long we wait for this baby to come out, he's not coming out.
She was adamant. She was like, it's not happening.
She's like, you can wait for 30 minutes. You can wait for 30 hours. You can wait for 3 days. Like, he's not coming out. We've been doing this for so long. And we've seen so many deliveries. It never happens.
I was so disappointed.
And I was offended. Because I was like, hold on. What? So by you saying he's never coming out, you're also telling me that my God can't make him come out. And we've been praying for 9 months. I didn't say all this. I'm thinking we've been praying for 9 months that she wouldn't have a C-section. And how are you going to right now just tell us that we have to have a C-section? I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
It really baffled me and it offended me. So much so that what ended up coming out of my mouth, that didn't come out, but what came out of my mouth was, well, we believe that the God who made her body can make the baby come out. So if you don't mind, if y'all could just leave the room so we could pray to the God who made her body and we could watch and see if he'll come out.
I was looking at him like, what? It was so shocking because we're all like, I'm just accepted that this is what's happening. And then you say that, I'm looked up like, what did he just say?
Yeah. But I mean,
at that point, I'm just thinking like, that's our private thing. That's how, in my mind,
wow.
I'm like, in my mind, my relationship with God is not public.
Right.
It's a private thing. It's what I do.
Well, at that point in time.
And it was. And so to put God on display, that was like the first time that like God was on display in that way for me to say, I'm praying that God is going to do this. And I believe that God is going to do this and watch him do it. It was
in front of people that we don't even know.
We didn't even know.
And what was amazing was...
when it's people that you know, they can be like, oh, God didn't, it's okay.
Yeah.
But,
and usually you do it in front of the people you know who are Christian.
Yeah.
Not so they understand.
Not for your family. We'd be like, see, really?
Yeah. But listen, like they said, okay, we'll give you 15 minutes.
Like
so they put us on the clock.
Challenge.
And and it was like, oh God, like what do we do? Like what if God doesn't show up? What does he do to move? And we just started to pray and sing and worship and pray some more and started even confessing like, God,
our doubt.
There's parts of us that doubt.
I was like,
that's so help our unbelief.
I'm doubting.
I know there was part of me doubting too. And they came in 15 minutes later, like right on the clock. They said, okay.
With a whole bunch of people.
With extra people.
They just rolled it in.
They had a team of residents that came by who were, so it was a whole room full of people.
Like extra nurse.
And it was so amazing because they went in to check and the doctor who challenged us was like, oh, she's ready to go. And then she got a confirmation from the other doctor who's like, oh, she's ready to go. And 15 minutes later, that baby was out.
Well, all them people in the room, they got to see it. But that reminds me of what Jesus is saying here. Yeah. It's like, so that they will believe.
So that they will believe. And I believe in that moment, somebody must have left the believer. I know the nurses that were working close to her, they were like, wow, like, you're God. And, and I think even still, they were calling him the miracle baby.
Yeah.
And everywhere we went in the hospital after that, everybody would kind of
I think at the end of the
referring to this miracle baby.
A seed, even if there wasn't like belief or whatever, I'm like, I think a seed was planted to go.
Maybe God is real.
Maybe God is
for
real.
those who don't believe in God.
Let me check into this God stuff.
and for those who do believe in God, but may have not necessarily believed that Jesus is the way to God, because he shared the other day that he's the gateway. So there's no multiple ways to God. Jesus says, I am the gateway, not one of the gateways. I am the gateway. So for those who might not have believed that Jesus is the way to God, I think that moment was an encouragement and a seed planter, as you said, for someone. And so I want to encourage you. Do not be afraid. Like, put your faith on display. It's not meant to be private. It's meant to be shared. Like, people need to experience the good news of Jesus Christ. There's people whose lives are going to be judged based on their actions and their choosing not to believe in Jesus. And here's my question to you. Have you given them a reason, a real reason, beyond your words, to believe in Jesus?